Oklahoma turned the tide last night on their season. Final score in Norman over Alabama, 24-3. What does it mean for Oklahoma going forward? What does this say about Kalen DeBoer? How do you feel about Kalen DeBoer this morning if you're an Alabama fan? We'll unpack both sides of this thing. Before we do, though, make sure you are subscribed right here to the On3 YouTube channel. Make sure you're following all the social platforms, Instagram, Twitter, heck, we're on TikTok, all those at JD PicKell. Hit me up there and let me know your thoughts on this. But we got to start with Bama, okay, because we'll get to Oklahoma in a second, but Alabama, man, this is not the season you had dialed up. Even with Nick Saban departing, the standard and the roster that he left behind was still, I would argue, and I think based on the position they were in here going into that game, most people could fairly argue, college football playoff caliber worthy. Winning the SEC would have been nice. Winning the Natty, sure, would have been great for Dave Portnoy and his bank account as well. So I mean, I appreciate him taking a daddy hack there, but that's not going to happen now. Not going to happen. They're not even going to make the college football playoff, barring something wildly unforeseen. And so there's multiple reasons to be frustrated here. I want to start with this, though. The frustrating thing for me, if I'm a Bama fan, is the reality now in 2 out of the 3 losses for Alabama. They have lost to what I would call inferior competition for the sole reason of them not being ready to play football. And that sounds a little bit harsh, a little bit simplistic. Like, a Tennessee game is what it is. I think Tennessee's a good football team. I think you charged the game there. But to lose to Vandy, you should beat Vandy. To lose to Oklahoma, you should, quite frankly, from a roster perspective, beat Oklahoma. So going back to what I just said, not being able to reset and, quite frankly, handle success properly, that to me is the most frustrating thing when you look at this loss for this Kalen DeBoer coached football team. Because you beat Georgia the week before you went and played Vanderbilt. I mean, if you can beat Georgia, you can beat Vanderbilt. Let's just call a spade here. You beat LSU, you beat the brakes off LSU in Death Valley at night. And then 2 weeks later, after playing Mercer, you go and lay an egg in Norman against Oklahoma. So we see very different versions of Alabama week to week, and that's not something we're accustomed to seeing, especially under the Nick Saban regime. So that's extremely frustrating. We'll talk more about that in a second. Also now, like Alabama offensively, to not even be able to get in the end zone against Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a good defense now. But Kalen DeBoer, like, he has made his money as an offensive guy in this sport. Like that is what he does. He's an offensive guru. To be held to 3 points? For Jalen Milroe to have, 154 yards passing? Have 3 interceptions? Not all of them on him, by the way, but he was very much so out of sorts. That, to me, is just inexcusable. To not even look competitive offensively against that Oklahoma defense is just inexcusable. The thing with this, too, like the lack of ability to have other pitches offensively is very concerning to me. Like we said it previously, if Jalen Milroe is having his way on the ground, Alabama can have whatever they want that day. Like, Alabama can win that football game. However, if he doesn't have success on the ground, if they have to do what I would call a cold open, find other ways to get things rolling. Alabama last night under Jalen Milroe on the ground, Jalen Milroe was held to, what was it here? We got him at a smooth 7 yards rushing. Now, I understand you factor in sacks. I understand all that. But to be held to single-digit yards rushing on the ground, it's not winning football for Alabama. And to not be able to go other directions with the offense, to get a Ryan Williams more involved, or to be able to have other running backs step up, like, that to me is enormously concerning. Again, going back to the idea that is the whole premise of how Kalen DeBoer got to where he's at right now as a head coach in college football. So, again, you're out of the college football playoff hunt for the time being, it would seem. Struggled offensively, didn't come ready to play. But I want us to reset this discussion here. This does not mean that you whiffed on your hire of Kalen DeBoer. And it's going to feel that way here for the next, probably, I would imagine, 48 to 72 hours in Tuscaloosa, because you're not going to play in the postseason. You're not going to Atlanta. All those things that were very much so in front of you before this game are now gone. You didn't hire the wrong guy, or at least we can't say that definitively at this point in time. But it does, again, very much so reemphasize the reality that Nick Saban is gone. And the things that you enjoyed and you experienced under Nick Saban, where your team is more often than not consistently the same operation week in and week out, win or lose the week before, they're able to play their best football the next week. Nick Saban's gone. His way of doing things is gone. And it's not to say there isn't still Saban traits within this football team, because a lot of these guys were recruited by Nick Saban, and I think a lot of these guys still have a lot of pride in what Nick Saban brought to the table in his process. But like this is This is not the same outfit. And this loss yesterday and the loss to Vanderbilt, I think, reemphasizes that this is a new Alabama, and you have to find, I think, a little bit of a new perspective if you're an Alabama fan. Not saying you lower your standards, but I do think it's going to take some time now for Kalen DeBoer's Alabama to ultimately formulate. Now, we got to say this too. The Iron Bowl is going to be nuts, especially what Auburn did last night, the way they looked offensively against what I would call a good Texas A&M defense. It's going to be absolutely nuts. So if Alabama were to drop that game, that's a whole other video for another time, and we'll talk about it if it ends up going that way. Going to be very, very noisy. And that's, I think, the frustrating thing now. I mean, forget the Iron Bowl. Losing 3 games. Nick Saban hadn't lost 3 games at Alabama since 2010. Like, forget the postseason. 3 games, period, since 2010. This is not something that you're used to feeling if you're an Alabama fan. More importantly, we talk about the future of Alabama football under Kalen DeBoer and how he's going to recruit. You don't get to operate from that same place of power you operated from this past spring and summer when you were racking up recruits on the on the trail. It's not that same place of power. You now have to, I think, sell a bit more of a vision of what you can be, of what you expect Alabama to ultimately be under Kalen DeBoer, and that's not the same as it was going into the year when there was all that good faith of Kalen DeBoer's national title appearance and Alabama and their roster and their talent, all that. Like, a lot of that's still there, but you're pitching from a place of projection rather than a place of tangible reality of what they are on the football field. So that's the Bama side of things. But let's talk about the winners a bit here, man. I hope and pray now that this win for the Oklahoma fan base is a bit of a chill pill, because we went before this season. We did our whole win-loss thing that we do on TikTok on the short form social platforms where we just call our shot, say this team's going to win this game, lose this game, and just give you a record prediction. And based on what they had on this roster, we said Oklahoma's going to win 6 football games, lose 6 football games. They got win number 6 last night. Now, granted, I did not expect this whole 6 wins to look the way that it has. They could get 7 next week. LSU is a very gettable football team, so we'll see if we're on the money there. But the point being, like, this year for Oklahoma always had a bit of volatility to it. Brand new offensive line, brand new quarterback, brand new conference, which is, of course, the most difficult conference in all of college football. There was always some cause for hesitation here. That's why Vegas had the over-under win total for Oklahoma at 7.5 going into the year. All that's to say, when Oklahoma ended up having a season that was similar to, I think, what reasonable minds could expect Oklahoma to have, there was a lot of discussion. Well, is Brent Venables the right guy? He shouldn't be the head coach at Oklahoma. What's his buyout? All that discussion was running rampant after this dude just won 10 football games a year ago for you. And so my hope is this is a chill pill for the entire Oklahoma fan base that, like, okay, first year in the SEC, all the things we just spoke to, I think, are very fair, not excuses, but maybe reasons as to why Oklahoma is having the year they're having right now. Give it some time. Let it bake. Let it marinate. It's the most difficult conference in college football, like I just said. It's not a thing where you walk in the first year with all those, I guess, variables and have the success you want to have right off the bat. That would be the anomaly there. Last night's win for Oklahoma felt, right in the wheelhouse of Brent Venables, didn't it? Defensive-led, multiple turnovers, physical, run the football, gritty, high energy, blue-collar kind of outfit. Jackson Arnold, gosh dang, went for over 100 yards on the ground, 131. They went for over 250 yards on the ground. Did Oklahoma as a football team. Like, that was, I think, exactly the kind of brand of football that you hired Brent Venables for. Now, offensively, yeah, you want to see more. We'll see who they hire for their OC here in the future. But I'll say this, Joe John Finley throwing his hat in the ring a little bit there with what they did offensively last night. I think with the solutions they don't have up front, having the quarterback run game involved, having the misdirection, the read option, all those things, work to perfection in my mind. Not saying that's the most sustainable model of all time. Having Jackson Arnold go for less than 100 yards passing, probably not a way you want to live, but the reality is you found a way to get it done. Found a way to make it work with what you have, and I think that is, I think that's worth noting. Now, on the Jackson Arnold side of things, man, I cannot tell you how impressed I am with the mental toughness of that dude. To get benched early in the year, after going into the season, you are the poster boy for the future of Oklahoma football. You're the 5-star quarterback. You're the guy in Norman for a long time. And then to get benched the way that he got benched, and then to be called upon to go back into the starting role, and to be able to play that way and get a win over Alabama, That's not easy. A lesser caliber, not just quarterback, lesser caliber competitor would have folded. Jackson Arnold did not fold. Make no mistake about it. And I think that's a testament to how he operates. I think it's a testament to his belief in himself and a testament to, quite frankly, the belief around him, to be able to have support around him, to be able to go forward and have the game that he had. Now, the discussion that's interesting now with him is that transfer portal is going to open up. And it's going to be a name that you watch based on everything that happened over this season with Oklahoma. What's the future for him? Is he a guy that has a future in Norman? Does he want to stay in Norman? Here's all I'll say. I think if you're Oklahoma, I don't know how the feeling was before that game against Alabama, but I will say this. I think you feel very much so like you would like to have Jackson Arnold back. I'm not saying you pass him the keys to the offense and say, hey, you're a QB1 going forward till death do us part. But it's clear this team plays for him. It's clear that he plays for Oklahoma. It's clear that he is a guy you can rally around. I don't think we know who he is yet. I think what we saw this year is very much so a product of not having an offensive line and having a dinged-up wide receiver room. You fired your OC before the season was even over. That should tell us something about what he is as a quarterback in the context of this season. He was a 5-star for a reason, y'all. I don't know that you're buying a ton of Jackson Arnold stock right now, if you want to be my guest, but I don't think you should necessarily sell what you have either. I think this season itself was never catering to his skill set and catering to he is as a football player. So I can't wait to see what he does going forward. And again, if you're an Oklahoma fan, I think you would very much so like Jackson Arnold to come back. Make this very clear. I do not know anything. I'm not claiming he's going to the portal. I'm just saying anytime a quarterback gets benched at any point during the season, it's fair to wonder about what their future is at that school. I don't think that's a stretch for us to say. So, Oklahoma, again, signature kind of win. Could get to 7 wins next week against LSU. And I know it's not what Oklahoma fans are accustomed to, but that, with all that's gone around Oklahoma this season, that would be I think more than solid year based on what they don't have on this roster at this point in time. So, tale of two programs. Excited to see what happens for both these operations going forward, but I promise you, we will track both of their off seasons like a hawk, and want y'all dialed in for all of that. Best way to be dialed in is by making sure you are subscribed. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.